Good afternoon, YouTube. My name is Greg. I'm from GregsTutoringNYC at gmail.com. I am a tutor in the New York City area, and I specialize in specialized testing situations, and including the Hunter High School uh, admissions test. I did a YouTube live stream, and maybe in the first week of July, giving a really good overview of what the test was about. Um, and give me 1 second. I have audio coming on, feedbacking through my live stream thing here. Okay. So I did a live stream back in July with a pretty reasonable overview of what the Hunter test admission process is for the high school. There's also an admission process for the elementary school. I'm only focusing here on the high school aspects. There's a very rigorous test that's going to be happening in January, and this morning they just announced the more of the specifics about that. Because the little details changes from year to year. The cutoff, the main issue is the cutoff is for required to take the test in the first place is you need a 627 on your ELA New York State grade 5 test score, and for your New York State grade 5 math score you need a 628 and above. So if you do either one of those and above, you're okay. If you're below those, then they will not accept your application, or at least it will be rejected if you apply for it. Remember, there's a fee to do the application, so you want to make sure that your vetting information is correct before you process through here. Now, if you happen to not be a New York City resident, because that's one of the requirements, you must be a New York City resident. If you don't live in New York City and you believe you're going to end up in New York City come next fall 2019-20 school year, you need to contact school and work out details with that. As well, there's another aspect, which is that if you didn't take the New York State tests at all, even if you're a citizen or not, they also have a qualifying exam. There's also other exams where they vet you to ensure that you're in the 90th percentile. I know that's the top 10% of kids. There's Terra Nova. There's a whole bunch of different other standardized tests that can be used. And in the event, if you don't have those scores, there's a qualifying exam in November. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag over some details. I'm not going to reproduce all the information I put in the other video. So here's basically, in a nutshell, an overview of the Hunter information. Let me squish me over to the side. So this is basically an overview. This a three-part test involving 50 ELA questions, 30 math questions, and a writing assignment. And what might make sense is for you to freeze frame this, especially if you're catching us on the replay. And that's a good, super top level overview. It's actually vague, but given our way of communicating here is the best we can get at it. So if you snapshot the screen or take a photo of it even with your camera, that might work as well. This is really a super high level overview of what's happening in the test. In the previous video, I laid out some other details. I have some other videos as well. So if you like and subscribe to my channel, you can just search for Hunter or HCHS, and you'll find my other videos about it. I have a bunch. I also have related videos pertaining to things like the SHSAT and the ISEE and other standardized tests, where I kind of doubled up some of them. So I may have some solving problem videos I already did, which combines Hunter and SHSAT, or Hunter and the ISEE, or other tests like that. So you can find them out there. So the testing season is beginning for this, if you will. And also, let me bring this towards the end, because I have this year's kind of timeline set up, so I can give you the time information for things that are going to be happening. Let me bring this down to the end. All right, so here's our timeline, really. So registration for the next 2020, 2019-20 year, open today, September 9th. The deadline is going to be November 8th of 2019. Now, you register online. You have to provide them an email. Your email, you want to make sure your email is good and accurate, because you really don't want to change it. You also don't want to miss any information from them. Going either way. Some emails lose information, even sending them out. So you want to make sure you have a reliable email doing that. And if you need to change your email, they would charge you, I think it's a $25 fee. So you want to get your email right from the get-go for a few reasons. Registration is online through admissions.hunterschools.org. And again, it opens up today. It will end at 4 p.m. on November 8th. So you don't want to wait till November 7th to register. You want to make sure this is all done. And they will shut down the website at that point. Okay? It'll just terminate and say admissions done. So if it's 3:30 and you haven't registered yet, you have a problem. Okay? The other thing that happens after that is that the QE takes place, which is the qualifying exam I mentioned a few minutes ago, which is that if you're not a New York City resident, or you are one and you don't have New York State scores, and you don't have another scores from another standardized test that they accept. There's only certain ones they accept. I believe they mentioned it on the application, which ones they'll accept. If not, you can always contact them and ask them, is this certain thing acceptable? In any event, the deadline for that, I believe, is also 4 p.m. on November 8th. And if you need to take the qualifying exam, it's going to be on Saturday, November 16th, or if there's religious purposes that you're not available on Saturday, it'll also be on Monday, November 18th. This QE is not the Hunter College High School admissions test. This is just the vetting process to see if you're at the 90 percentile to be even able to take the eventual test. And then what happens is once your application has been accepted on November 8th, you need to, in the meantime, be contacting your students, your child's current middle school, and asking them to submit their report card grades, their address information, and their New York State scores to Hunter College High School. If that doesn't get done, your application is incomplete, and you are not there. There's a lot of kids applying. There's 3,000 kids who apply, and if you miss the cutoffs, they're not going to give you special permission. So this is pretty rigorous process. There's a lot of confusion. So you want to be on the backs of your middle school guidance counselor, on the principal, on the parent coordinator, whoever the top level people involved in submitting your information to Hunter College High School. They have to do it, okay? And they're going to be processing this as they get this in. They're going to be giving you information about, giving you feedback. They give you feedback. And when you apply to do the school selection process during the New York City Department of Education sites, they often don't give you feedback. Hunter will give you feedback. So that means if you don't get feedback, you need to contact them and ask them what happened. Once the deadline is passed, obviously. All right? But they'll ricochet out with you. You know, if you applied today, you'll get a notice before the November 8th that it happened. And even so once your application has been accepted, your school has until November 22nd to submit all the required information that's needed to them. If your school doesn't do that, there's a problem. So you don't just wait for Hunter to tell you they didn't send it. You need to contact your middle school and be in direct communication with them and get a receipt. Have them confirm. Don't just walk into the guidance counselor and say, did you send that? You're better off doing it through email so that you have a documented email receipt from your middle school saying it was sent. Just in case there's some sort of weirdness that happens, well, Hunter says it wasn't sent. In the meantime, your school actually sent it before the deadline. Okay, so deadlines are important here. Once that finally happens, you'll get an email. You'll get emailed again because most of the communication through Hunter is through email. You'll get your admission ticket for your child sometime during mid-December. Okay, there's not an exact date. And then eventually on January 10th in 2020 is the actual Hunter College High School test date. And on the 17th, just in case it's inclement weather, it might be snowing or whatever, they have another test date. They rarely change the deadlines on these things. They're pretty rigorous, and it's a well-run school. So but that said, be on the note that you want to have a reliable email path again, so your communications are pretty clear. You know, if you don't read your email every 3 weeks, you're probably going to make a mistake here. So you make sure you're using an email path that's reliable. Make sure you're using an email path that you actually check, and so on. And then finally, if your student meets the cutoff score for the Hunter College High School testing situation, They're one of they normally accept about between 150 to 200 kids. So figure about 175 kids that get accepted out of the original 3,000. And then if your child accepted, you get an email notification in early March. Again, just bugging the school is not going to get you an answer. Once stuff goes out and you'll find out other students have gotten scores, you'll then obviously, if it's April and you haven't gotten a response, there's probably a mistake. Again, I tutor a lot of kids, and I'm well aware of what the test is about and the details of it and so on. And I also am well aware of the logistics and how the procedure works. So if anybody has questions about the process, because it can be very confusing, it's often a vague things they give. Even the website gives enough details, but it's still very vague. Please email me. My email address is at the bottom of the screen here. It's GregsTutoringNYC@gmail.com. And again, if I actually tutor your child, I will be in feedback with you guys back and forth about what's happening in terms of any major issues happening with the test, or they changed a date, or they extended something. That's handy information, so I would give that back to you in feedback. Even if your child is not my student, please feel free to email me. I like helping people. This is, again, a detailed, confusing process with a whole bunch of different levels on it. Just one kind of last two things. You need to be a resident of New York City to be in Hunter College High School. Okay? So either you need to be one right now, or by the time next September comes, you need to definitely be here. And it can't be a dupe. If you really live somewhere else, they're gonna find out. And you can live in any of the 5 boroughs, not just in Manhattan. Realizing that if you live, New York City is huge. Really, it's about 40 miles long when everything's considered. Like the tip of Staten Island to the tip of the Bronx, that's 35 miles or 40 miles or something like that. So you have to consider that a child, say in the south of Staten Island, doesn't really make sense for them to commute every day to somewhere like Hunter. That said, it's an excellent school, and it's a really rewarding experience with free tuition. Hunter College High School is not part of the New York City Department of Education. It is not a private school. It is still publicly funded, but it's under the auspices of Hunter College itself. It's basically an experimental high school, even though it's been around for quite a long time. It's an excellent school. It's normally considered one of the top schools in the country. Again, I'm Greg from GregsTutoringNYC@gmail.com. Ask me anything about it, and if your child needs to be tutored for the entrance test, I know a lot of details about it, and I've gotten a lot of kids in already, and it's a great fun experience. All right, peace out, everybody. Have a great day.